In this video, we're going to cover exactly what New World Aeternum is doing to the old perks or existing gear. Will they be completely gutted, or are they still going to be meta? Let's find out together. Starting off with Plague Strikes. This is relatively staying the same with the vast majority of these perks across the board. Attunement is getting a slight nerf of 1%, but nothing else to be seen there. 6% base ability damage and 12% base damage to increase final attack in melee light chains. This is good for some extra bit of damage on your melee attacks. Critical suppression is also pretty strong. Hitting an attack from a magic weapon, light or heavy, will reduce their critical chance by 2.5%, turning them into a wet noodle. Life stealing has also been reduced across the board here as well, as it got nerfed by about 2%. But everything else is basically staying the same or getting a slight nerf. To armor and shield perks haven't been changed. Conditioning will still be very strong come Season 10. How about armor? Nothing too big here. Most of the perks stay either the same or get a slight nerf, which is to be expected. But here's the interesting stuff here. Trinkets have been nerfed across the board by about 5% in total. That's a lot of reduced damage. You'll be taking 5% more damage now than you were in Season 9, making the one-shot builds come alive. I cannot wait to get sent to the bottom of the abyss. Another one is max health has been reduced to 5% from the previous 7.5, making you once again more squishy. Tricking power has a bit of a buff because now it goes up to 10%. Previously it was 7. That's a 3% increase, making my build even stronger. As getting to that empower cap, tricking empower is looking like a fantastic way to do this, allowing us to really maximize our potential damage to one perk alone. That's what I like to see. Big damage, big dreams, big graveyards. Next up, rings. These ones are staying roughly the same, getting a 1% increased damage though across the board. Everything else here is staying roughly the same, except we got a couple new additions. Enchanted Totality 2. All hits deals 2% increase base damage. This one is pretty massive, as that's just flat damage increase. Combine that with enchanted skills, and you also get 2.5% base damage to your abilities, meaning once again you can spec into a light and heavy attacking rat, or an ability goblin, whichever one fancies you're choosing. I'm not here to judge, I'm just here to give you the facts. Another big one is enchanted attacks. Light and heavy attacks deal an increase of 3% base damage. A lot of numbers and a lot of math. Never do math in a video, folks. That is a recipe for disaster. But one thing I can tell you is these perks are shaping up to be meta defining. Anything that increases your damage by a flat amount is generally good, especially in a game like New World where light and heavy attacks are a vast majority of your damage. Here's an interesting one though. You get 7% increased crit chance against targets with your damage over time effects while they're active, meaning for certain weapons like the Fire Staff, this could be beyond broken, as there's always a burn on somebody, Disco Infern, allowing them to go down into a pile of ash. You can read the rest if you want, but I don't think they're really worth noting, except one or two that I saved the best for last. Curse Enchantment and Curse Skill. Increases ability damage by 10%, but decreases basic attack dealt by 10%. This is a classic trade-off choice. The same can be said for Enchanted, and it's the exact opposite of Curse Skill, once again forcing you to choose between a heavy and light attack build or an ability focus monster. For stuff like the Blunderbuss, Great Sword, these types of perks are fantastic, as they're primarily an auto attacker. How about for something like an Ice Golem or Fire Staff that uses a lot of abilities to dish out a huge amount of damage? This could be very strong in them as well. The only problem is the mixture damage abilities, such as SNS and Rapier, that do a lot of light attacks and autoings mixed in with their abilities. Earrings. This one's interesting because we finally found out where all the refreshing move has been disappearing to. We thought it was grabbing milk. No, it was heading over to our ears. Refreshment reduces max cooldown by 10%. This is huge for CDR gremlins. Pair that with refreshing move and you'll have a lot of CDR. The one major downside is your light and heavy attacks have to connect 10 times to make the same value as one perk. Your heavy attacks only 5, but that's still quite the commitment. Meaning that refreshing will almost always be better than refreshing move unless your abilities cooldowns are as big as my forehead, and that would be an accomplishment on its own. And we have the same abilities from the pre-season 9, they've just been changed slightly to fit our season 10 new standards. Nothing much of note. Now let's break down artifacts. A few of these have been changed quite significantly, so you'll want to lock it in to know if your favorite baby is going to be gutted, like that stuffed pig for Thanksgiving. Infernal, Abyss, and Lifetaker all now scale BB to the respective stats. Nothing much to be said there. Crescent Wave got a bit of an update as it only now triggers off Blade passive when melee heavy attacks are triggered to prevent the Crescent Wave artifact from triggering it. Honestly, I don't even know what this means. I'm pretty sure this is a passive in the Greatsword tree that I forgot to memorize. My bad. Featherweight, Attuned Leather Pants, and Old Crown here are just getting a slight attribute adjustment, but an interesting note here about Old Crown is it now has 3 changeable gems, meaning mutations could have a new best in slot contender up on the block. For you PvE rats out there, Old Crown might be now the most important artifact in your arsenal. And for our PvP light goblins, Featherweight got a huge blow, as now you'll have a trade-off. You inflict a slow on yourself when staggered by 8%. For 4 seconds, this is a huge cut to the survivability of Featherweight. One massive benefit of Featherweight, it was just a flat damage reduction, which was very strong and prevalent for a lot of PvP builds. But with this trade-off, you can see this thing dropping like flies now, as most people will be switching over to different artifacts. Tumblr's Feet Wraps got a bit of reduced across the board, a little bit, but it's still a 3-for-1 Happy Meal, and I'm loving it still. Onk got nerfed by about 10%. It's still going to be relatively strong for something like Ward, but I don't see this having a place anymore besides in the war scene. Now for Finisher, everyone's bread and butter DPS weapon. This thing got the biggest change of all. Listen up. Finisher artifact now only triggers on bleeds applied by the wielder, meaning the 19 evade rapier builds that would go into a dungeon to completely annihilate it is now getting gutted beyond belief. This means we finally have a new DPS meta coming our way, whether that be from Serenity, the Greatsword, Hatchet, or maybe more Ren bots will be on the table, as now you can't have all these evade rapier rats gathering together like a swarm. Serenity. This one got a nice little buff, as the duration of Empower and Fortify went up by 1 second. That's what I call big gains. Unmoved. This artifact now reflects damage back to the attacker. 16% damage, 1 second cooldown, which is relatively strong, as you're like a porcupine shelling out your own needles. Now, I want everyone to listen up closely, because Bloodrinker, my favorite artifact, is getting a bit of a buff. The vampire build is about to be on steroids, and if you guys are interested in seeing the best life-stealing build come Season 10, smash that like button and subscribe, because I promise you, nobody will be outdoing my Bloodrinker setup. They're changing the damage reduction from 25 to 20% and added a benefit of a lesser decrease in damage if the target is diseased. Depending on how much of damage we get back if we're plagued like a rat, we could see Bloodrinker being actually become more meta out of my little niche gremlin horde, as this thing is already really strong, but the fact that now we're getting 5% increased damage and disease will give us even more damage, we'll be sucking people dry harder than your Tinder date, and I can't wait. Quick Draw Gloves got a bit of a buff, as it adds invulnerability at the end, giving us a bit more iframes like we're in Dark Souls. Aught's got a big change as well, as it gets 10% increase damage and haste. That's a massive bonus. Grace is still gracefully useless, as no one's ever going to be touching that thing. And Freya Francisca is still going to be, I think, one of the best artifacts come Season 10. There's already been hatchet throwing builds sneaking up in Season 9, and with this, New passive where you deal 25% additional damage to nearby targets. You'll be nuking clumps left and right. Odo now gets Lifesteal when no shield is equipped. This is huge because the flail meta already revolves around not running a shield. This is just a flat buff across the board. Plague Herald. This one's a big one, so listen up. Increase the power of disease you apply to yourself from 1 to 2%. Thank God the devs finally nerfed this thing into the ground. It was so broken, I couldn't believe it hasn't been nerfed yet, but come season 10, these plague rats will finally be plaguing themselves. I want to scroll down here and you can clearly see all the other changes to the weapons. They're very minor and small, so I won't be going over them. You can look at them if you want. And here's the bottom of the thing. I want to wrap up the video here. If you guys are new here, smash that like button, subscribe. If you become a Twitch Prime member or a YouTube channel member, support the channel like that. You can do whatever you want on stream or whatever YouTube video your heart desire. I got your back. With that, boys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and peace.